with that, let's go ahead and jump in. The first pattern I want to talk about is something that you might think these two things don't go together, but they really do. Okay? They're both hyper, super individualistic, and super duper conformist at the same time, both. You might think like individual conformist, that's, you know, like saying Microsoft works, you know, it's a kind of an oxymoron. But they're two peas in the pod, and they reinforce each other. So let me kind of explain this first by tackling the individualism part, okay? I distinguish between a healthy individualism and a more concerning individualism, and the students' individualism is of the latter kind, okay? So this isn't like Martin Luther King Jr.'s letter from Birmingham jail. This isn't Martin Luther, here I stand, I can do no other. You know, this isn't the type of individualism where, you know, you keep your head and you keep your convictions while everybody else is going crazy around you. It's not that kind, okay? The kind of individualism that they display, a few recent thinkers like Carl Trueman, Rod Dreher, and Alan Jacobs at Baylor, they've all put their finger on this and articulated this really well. They all call it different things. So Carl Trueman calls it expressive individualism. Alan Jacobs calls it metaphysical capitalism for some reason. I don't quite get that term, but at bottom it's the same idea. They all embrace as axiomatic the idea that I'm my own. You do you. Okay? It's the unrestrained expression of the self. You define yourself, period, full stop. Meaning and identity is found by looking within 100% and examining your desires, especially the sexual ones, rather than looking up to God or looking out to community. And then authenticity demands public expression of that inner identity that you find. And we also demand societal enabling of that identity. This is like the water they swim in. This is axiomatic. Okay? And you're going to hear me say this several times in this talk. I think we give good lip service to this. You know, we talk about spoiled millennials and narcissists and, you know, kids these days and stuff like that. But I really think we have a problem grasping how deep this problem goes. And I really don't think we quite know what time it is. Okay? Here, let me kind of explain this by pointing to a couple things. I think for one, we underestimate how universal and ubiquitous this message is. Like, it's everywhere. It's even in the church. Okay? This is the Disney Worldview. And even if you're like super duper conservative, raising kids in homeschool, they're probably exposed to Disney to a pretty good degree. Okay, I know my kids are. Almost every single Disney or Pixar movie, even the ones that we think are family friendly and have these wholesome messages like Frozen, The Incredibles, they're all variations of the same theme. Right? At the very center of the movie, you got this beleaguered and kind of put upon and pushed around individual that has desires that are out of step with their family or with their society or with their town or something. And so the whole movie is their journey of liberation from that. And then the larger society's gradual awakening to their need to kind of let go of their judgmental categorizations and accept the protagonist's unique identity. That's the movie. Okay, that's it. You know, any Disney movie you can think of, it probably fits that to a great degree. All right, now there's room for those sorts of realizations, right? But the point here is that this is the constant drumbeat of our culture. This is Disney to a hilt. So this is the lens through which our kids see life. And this is kind of how they think about things to the exclusion of almost everything else. For example, I know this kind of sounds funny coming from a guy who looks like me.
Rich, you can close down that right side if you want to.
Okay. How do I do that?
Take
There
a
we go.
little
Never
single
mind.
mark there. There you go.
So, you ever think of the song, Let It Go?
Mm-hmm.
Again, you know, it sounds funny, coming from a guy who looks like me, but look at these lyrics here. This is just one stanza, okay? The fears that once controlled me can't get to me anymore. It's time to see what I can do, to test the limits and break through. No right, no wrong, no rules. I'm free. That's just one stanza. Whole song's like that. That's just one song. Whole movie's like that. That's just one movie. Every Disney movie is like that. Okay, you might be able to think of like one or two exceptions, but I can't. And one of the problems is that we easily miss the import of lyrics like that because we ourselves are expressive individuals. You know, none of us escape this. Okay, we don't balk at it because we don't see it. We're swimming in the same water. All right. This is the American gospel. Part of the talk that I cut out was just pointing to other examples in our culture. Like I could go on for hours pointing to advertisements and whatnot. It goes really deep in America, okay? Now here's another thing that I think we miss. Most of our controversial issues that get us bothered, like especially the sexual ones, I think we tend to look at those issues on a too superficial level. We think of those like on the moral level. So for example, is same-sex marriage right or wrong? All right? Or on the behavior level, or on the public policy level, like bathroom policy, gender divisions in sports, preferred pronouns, what have you. And we need to pay attention to those. All right? I'm not denigrating that and saying that's wrong to think of those things. But the problem is that those things are downstream from more fundamental issues. Right now, as an illustration, let me go at it this way. A couple years ago, I broke my foot. Probably painful. Don't recommend it. There's a lot of bones down there, really small bones that go crunch when you take a wrong step. I had to have surgery in my foot. If you look at an x-ray today, you'll see 4 screws that are all broken, like right about here in my foot. They can't be removed, so I'm stuck with them. But the thing is that when I went to my physical therapy, a lot of it had nothing to do with my foot, and everything to do with calf strength, or everything to do with even hip flexibility. Okay? And that's because the injury is never the source of the problem. It always originates up the stream, okay, up your chain. And by the same token, when it comes to the battle of ideas, everything in the sexual revolution, it's not just a loosening of traditional morality or being more inclusive. It's a whole worldview shift. It's just as momentous as a shift from paganism to Christianity in the last days of the Roman Republic. Maybe even more. Okay? It's a profound shift in metaphysics. What is reality? It's a profound shift in anthropology. What does it mean to be human? And to fail to fight the battle there, at the source, is a failure to really perceive what's going on. Okay? Now, if a church or an individual or institution or what have you adopts this expressive individualism that I just articulated, it's a done deal. Okay? The camel's nose is in the tent, and pretty soon you're going to be sleeping with the camel. Okay? Everything else, from abortion on demand to publicly funded trans surgeries, it follows as a human right once you let expressive individualism in the door. Okay? The train has left the station. And so I don't want to be overly downer, but I think we really need to wrestle with this, and this is the attitude of our kids. This is how they've been raised. This is America. Okay? Even the ones who've been raised in strong Christian homes. So let me give a couple of stories to flesh all this out. I was telling Ron.